People want to know what your status is in the world. In other words, are you a mover and shaker? Are you a rainmaker? Are you a doctor, a lawyer, a business owner? Are you an artist? Are you someone good at sports? Do you work menial labor? Most likely, they are going to listen to what you say, and somewhere in their mind, they're going to rank you as to the status you have based upon their internal scorecard. Some people might value artists and musicians higher than, I don't know, doctors, for example. It's a personal way that people will give you status. Now, this is what we again are calling very 3D. It's the old way of looking at things based upon 3D. Some people, let's say most cultural people, I'm having a hard time putting this into words. I think the whole idea is that if you are looking at people from the perspective of what their vibe is, some people have got a vibe that just you can put everyone onto the scale of human consciousness. You can calibrate their consciousness on the scale of human consciousness. And people who are low vibe have they might have a title associated with them. So it could be your boss, for example, has a vibe that is rather low, but they are your boss, so you have to give them status in a 3D world. In other words, I gotta listen to this asshole. But if you were to look at ranking people according to the spirit, then it is the consciousness calibration tool of your human body. And how do you do this? Well, I used to use this method. It's put your thumb and finger together, and then you hold the thought in mind. This person calibrates over 540, and then I just pull on it. And if it stays strong, then it is true. That is basic muscle testing. There's more videos like that. You can use a two-person method. If you're a low vibe person, I will caution you that muscle testing won't work for you. You have to calibrate over 200 on the scale of human consciousness. And a lot of people don't make the grade, but don't worry about it because those people won't be interested in muscle testing anyways. But for you, how do you know if you are over 200? What I would recommend is getting a good book like Transcending the Levels of Consciousness by Dr. David R. Hawkins. And reading that, it'll give you a description of how to muscle test. Go on YouTube and take a look as well. And if you start reading the book itself will give you the information to help you let go of low vibe attitudes and beliefs, which will raise your vibration. Okay, so is it true then that there is a spiritual hierarchy, or is this just a rumor? The answer is it is a ego-driven thing to say that one being is better than another, because egos, which come from the animal nature that humans have. Is it true that humans evolved from animals? It is undetermined. I know in 3D school they say this is a scientific fact. Let's just leave it at, if you want to believe that, then humans did evolve from animals, and they have come with a lot of instincts and emotions But if you were looking at it from the perspective of you don't want to be tied to the ideas of a 3D Earth, which are mostly to do with evolution or creation, you might say it doesn't matter to me because in this now moment, all that is just someone's fantasy. In the now moment, I have control over my vibration. And as I said, you can get that book to learn how to raise your vibration. No one wants to lower their vibration. Lower vibrations are associated with uh, unpleasant emotions, unpleasant people, unpleasant situations. So no one wants to go there. Where should your calibrated level of consciousness be? You need to be at 540 on the scale of human consciousness or higher. 540 is unconditional love. Above that, you get to states of ecstasy, peace, enlightenment. And then beyond that, archangel. What's it like to be an archangel? You're going to have to raise your consciousness to that point to find out. Is there a shortcut to getting ideas of what these places might be like? Yes. Primarily, they are by masking low vibrations, and it is done by. I'm not going to tell you because I don't want you to go there. So it's coughing. They're going, excuse me. Okay, if you were to take a powerful substance like 5-MeO-DMT, dimethyltryptamine, which I'm sorry to tell you is illegal in most places on the planet because the people who are in control of this planet have made things like that illegal to use because they don't want people to use them to discover, oh my God, oh my God. Because we are kept at a very low vibration by mass media and laws, rules, and regulations. It's Orwell, basically Big Brother keeping you from expanding your consciousness. But if you were able to get your hands on this illegal substance that's illegal in most places, maybe you could use it in places like Portugal or maybe in the Amazon jungle. Uruguay, I think, has also decriminalized a lot of these drugs. But in 1973, the Richard Nixon American administration rammed through a lot of treaties with all the other dependent nations, which is basically the rest of the planet, to make these substances illegal and put high jail time on these kind of things for using them or for trafficking in them. So, high caution to everyone if you are thinking this is a smart idea. You might want to travel to a country where they are not criminal. But if you were to find these substances and you took them, these substances do mask lower vibrations, which is basically what you experience every day on planet Earth, because planet Earth calibrates at not too much more than 207 on the scale of human consciousness, which is way below unconditional love at 540. So you can get a blast of something like 5-MeO-DMT and experience unbelievable states, unbelievable things in your consciousness that make you go, why the hell do I live on a planet that's at 207 if these other states of consciousness are available? Could you do 5-MeO-DMT every day? The issue is it's illegal in most places, and it's also known as a crutch. In other words, it will bring you to advanced states of consciousness, but it's going to become very addictive to you. That is the problem with every kind of drug there is, whether it's booze or pot or ecstasy, all these other kinds of things, they are highly addictive because you get to the point where all you want to do is be in this state, advanced states of consciousness, and you're using this as a tool to get there. Just look at the alcoholics or crack cocaine users, chronic marijuana users. It's because it's addictive. So what is the way out of this addictive kind of thing? It is to read the book Transcending the Levels of Consciousness by David R. Hawkins, and learn muscle testing and start going through doing it. You have to do an inventory, a personal inventory of what your thoughts and beliefs are. And then you have to go reference the book and start letting go of beliefs and attitudes that are of lower vibration than unconditional love. And you're going to find most of the things that you have in your memory bank and your belief structures don't calibrate as high as unconditional love. They are all based upon the matrix, which is where we are on planet Earth at 207 on the calibrated level of consciousness. It's the matrix. What do I mean by the matrix? It means everything here is, as Alex Jones says, prison planet. Everything is designed. I just told you that 5-MeO DMT is illegal in almost every country in the world. If it was made legal, should we all take it every day? No. Should it be legal anyway? Yes, it should be legal. There is no good reason to make it illegal. Nixon did it because he was an alcoholic, and he was basically insane. And most of the people of his type are insane. But, why were they making? They were just going through and making anything that would change your consciousness other than alcohol illegal. Was it because they were in the back pocket of the alcohol and beer industries? Not necessarily. It's mostly because of the feeling that anything other than alcohol was uncivilized. It was the way people thought in 1973, and there was a great pushback by conservatives to the hippies of the late 1960s, early 1970s, who were using all these substances. The hippies basically proved that these drugs are they could be used to expand your consciousness, but they don't fit in with the 3D control structure. And it caused a great gap in culture between the hippies and the square people. They called them square, but conservative people. If you want a really good idea of what this was like in those days, then you can go to this book, Tom Wolfe's, and sorry for the reflections, The Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test. The Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test. How can I give you a better view of this? The Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test. You can see it. The light's not too good. But this was the story about people who were taking mind-expanding drugs and driving all over the United States, and their experiences with others who were with it, and other people who were very square and didn't like these kind of people. But in the end, even if it was legal, would you be wise to take these drugs every day? No. It is not wise to use shortcuts to get to these advanced states of consciousness, because you are masking things that are in your mind. that are highly negative. If you want to get to these advanced states of consciousness without becoming drug dependent, you've got to read the book Transcending the Levels of Consciousness by David R. Hawkins, do muscle testing. And what is he going to recommend for you to do? Unplugging from mainstream media, unplugging from mainstream society. Is he going to recommend meditation? I don't think he recommends meditation too much. I mean, he did do meditation during his lifetime. Am I going to recommend meditation for you? Absolutely. Absolutely, I'm going to recommend meditation more than anything else to get to higher consciousness. What else do we want to talk about? Where are you going to find 5-MeO-DMT? There are places you can go in Amazonian countries where you can take a substance known as ayahuasca, which contains dimethyltryptamine and various other similar chemicals. They are come from plant sources. And is it wise to do this? No. Buy the book, Transcending the Levels of Consciousness, do meditation, and learn muscle testing. It's way safer. Why is that? Because if you go to the Amazon and you take ayahuasca, or you go and you find some drug dealer who's going to give you something that they say is 5-MeO-DMT, dimethyltryptamine, let's say it's the real stuff. What's going to happen to you? You're going to go to a dimension that is going to shake you to the foundations of what you think you are, which is your ego. And you might become unbelievably scared, like, oh my God, I must be dying. It is an unbelievable shock. And you might have what's known as a bad trip. You might have an unbelievably great experience, but it's not guaranteed. You might end up, well, if you take the plant medicine ayahuasca, quite likely you are going to barf and maybe come out the other end as well. And then you're going to have maybe 12 hours of uncontrollable psychedelic effects that you might get tired of and not want to experience, and there's no way to come down other than waiting for it. And if you have a really bad trip, you might experience, well, it's basically that. It's basically you're sick and tired of this psychedelic trip and you want to get off of it and you can't. And then what happens is you get paranoia and you get anxiety. This might have been one of the reasons why so many countries banned these kind of drugs, because people who took them were in a very low state of consciousness, and the shock to the system, unbelievable shock to the system, and the stories where many people did appear in emergency wards looking for help. So again, I'm going to suggest don't take drugs, even though it is a way to experience these things. It is fraught with danger, and there are much easier ways to get to these states of consciousness by going through getting rid of all your beliefs and attitudes that are low vibe, meditating, and you'll get there safely. I'm Harry Weaver, your transdimensional taxi driver. But getting back to the original question, which is there a spiritual hierarchy? The answer is, well, let's just go with the calibrated level of consciousness. If you are of higher consciousness, then I suppose you are higher in the spiritual hierarchy. The problem is that when you get to these higher levels of consciousness, your ego structure breaks down and what you are changes. So if you are still in a body, but you're at a very high level of consciousness, let's say 600 on the scale of consciousness, which is way above unconditional love, you might experience things there that um, you have to just go look at the book Transcending Levels of Consciousness to see what happens. But you might get into a state of ecstasy where you're not taking ecstasy, the drug, where you're actually in the state without the drug. In other words, you can go to a rave and dance 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 and never run out of energy without any drug. It's just a state of consciousness, a high state of consciousness. So, but the point is that what we, from an ego perspective, consider someone who calibrates at that 600 level, they are on their way to enlightenment. And what we are going to experience in their presence is going to be, they might just seem like a regular person. They might seem like a bum on the street. It's going to depend on your level of consciousness. Can you learn something from being in the presence of someone who's at a high level of consciousness? The consciousness researcher that I keep referring to, Dr. David R. Hawkins, says yes, someone who has got a very high vibration that is carried in their aura. And if you are exposed to their aura, it is of benefit to you. Are you immediately going to feel the aura? Dr. Hawkins says not necessarily unless you do the spiritual work. And he says it doesn't matter if you're exposed to someone who was at a high vibration aura in this lifetime, 3 lifetimes down the road. I mean, if you didn't do anything for the next 3 lifetimes on a spiritual path, the fact that you were in the presence of someone with a high vibration 3 lifetimes ago stays with you. So it is still a benefit to you way down the road, even if you don't use it in this lifetime. But why wouldn't you use it in this lifetime? My own personal experience with people who have very high consciousness is you will notice a difference. The one memory I have is going to see a speaker who had a very high vibration. And when I went into the room where they were going to talk, there was an unbelievable sense of silence. Peaceful, but very quiet. Like, wow. It was a noticeable thing. And I attribute it to the person who was speaking, who was talking on enlightenment kind of topics. So my feeling is that people that are high vibe, if you are in the right frame of mind, you will notice them. And that's why a lot of people who are on spiritual paths go to see these teachers, because they want to have some kind of proof that the things they're talking about in words are real. And that's how you get your proof when you're in the presence of someone like this. I think people feel better. I think they feel better and they get a boost. So that's basically how you're going to convince yourself that these so-called spiritual realities are real. You're going to have to go and try it out for yourself. I'm Harry Weaver.